Welcome back to Code Hive, the place where we make it work, make it right, and make it fast. So in the previous video, I introduced data types in SQL. So we looked at a few data types. So we looked at the integer data type, we looked at varchar data type, as well as the date data type. So if you still haven't watched that video, please watch that video because this is a continuation. So in this video, we're going to continue and look at other data types that are most commonly used in SQL. So the first one that I will talk about is char. Char, also referred to as the character data type, right? So it is used to store character strings with fixed lengths. So like it says over there, regardless of the actual data length, it allocates space for the specified length. So let's look at it. Okay, so the syntax for creating a table, for example, could be create table, employees table, and then you say first name, which is your column, and then the data type will be char. And then inside your brackets, you have 20. So what this is indicating is that the first name uses the char data type with a length of 20. So this reserves 20 characters for each first name, regardless of how long the name is. So what this is actually saying is that you are saying that you have a column name, which is first name, right? Your data type, which is char, and the length of 20. So the values that you will be inserting in that column should not exceed 20 characters. Okay, so if you insert a name that is more than 20 characters, it will only reserve space for 20 characters. So it will cut the name short. So for example, if the space or the length is 2, for example, right? And I store the name Sam, then the only things that will go to the database is the S as well as the A, because I said that the length is 2. So for example, values such as Joe, Sammy, Mpo, Tabang, as well as Nathaniel, those will be able to store in the first name column because it's not longer than 20 characters. So that is how you use char. So it reserves space for a specific number of characters. Okay. So the next one that we will look at is the NVARCHAR. So the NVARCHAR, right, is a variable length character string data type. So unlike the char, it adjusts its storage dynamically based on the length of the data. So this adaptability makes it useful for storing text of varying lengths. So let us look at what it says in the next slide. So NVARCHAR is useful when dealing with data that contains characters from multiple languages and character sets. It supports Unicode, allowing for the storage of characters from various languages such as Chinese, Arabic, as well as Japanese. So the NVARCHAR, you can store anything. You can write in Zulu, you can write in Chinese, you can write in any language, right? If you use the NVARCHAR data type, it will store your data. So what they say in the next bullet is that collations for NVARCHAR columns can be configured to perform case insensitive, accent insensitive, or width insensitive sorts of comparisons, which is useful for language specific sorting requirements. So now you're probably wondering, what is the difference between NVARCHAR as well as varchar? When do I use NVARCHAR? When do I use varchar? Right? So I have a hint. So if your data contains multiple languages, then you use NVARCHAR. That is simple. If you are storing data that is in Afrikaans, that is in, English, Chinese, Japanese, any language, multiple languages, then you use the NVARCHAR data type. Okay, but now the NVARCHAR requires a lot of space than varchar. So if you know that you're just using English, just have your data type as varchar, like we discussed in the previous video, right? And then leave it like that. And also, if you have watched the video where I talk about stored procedures with parameters, you would have noticed that when I was taking in a parameter, I was using the NVARCHAR instead of the varchar, right? So again, it requires a lot of storage, but it was because it's just better if you don't know what the input will be, if you don't know what the user will assign the parameter, then you just NVARCHAR, because someone could just use a multiple language and use that as your parameter, and then you use the varchar data type, and then that will be a problem. So if you still haven't watched the video where I talk about procedures, then please do so. There's 2 videos. The ones where I talk about taking in parameters, I actually use the NVARCHAR data type. Then you will understand the difference between the varchar as well as the NVARCHAR. But like I've said right now, that if your data has multiple languages or characters that are not supported by the standard character set, then you would use your NVARCHAR. But if you're just dealing with things like first name, last name, and it's just normal standard characters, then you might as well just use your varchar. Okay, so I hope that did make sense. So the next one that we will be looking at is your date time. So in the previous video on data types, part 1 video, we looked at the date data type. So now we are looking at the date time data type. So this data type is specifically used for dealing with date and time values. So it allows for the storage of both date as well as time information. So unlike the previous one just deals with date. Okay, so let us look at how to use it. So date time is frequently used to capture and store time stamps for various events, such as when a record was created, when it was modified, or when an event occurred. Okay, so let's look at the example that is provided over there. So create a table, for example, user activity. So you have your user ID, which has int data type that we also looked at in the previous video. We have activity timestamp, which uses a data type of date time. So date time can be used to manage scheduled events, appointments, or tasks by storing their start and end times. So when dealing with the date time, right, you don't specify the date time, because when you create a table and you create that the column and everything, and you insert values into the data, you could specify, right, the date and the time, but usually automatically it happens. It is automatically there. It's based on the time you created something or the time you inserted something, right, and the date. So that's why it is saying in the second point that it can be used to manage scheduled events by storing their start and end times. Okay, so another hint that I have here is date versus date time. So date only stores date information and has no time component. Date time saves date as well as time information down to the second. So literally every second, every minute, hour, it saves all that time information as well. Date is appropriate for storing and manipulating dates without time, such as birthdays or due dates, or date of birth, which is birth dates. Okay, and then the date time is used when you need to work with specific timestamps or track events that happen at specific times. Okay, so like it says in the second bullet, that it saves the date and time information down to the to the second. And that's why you have the statement in the fourth bullet that says track events that happen at specific times. So that's it for this video, guys. I've shown you the date versus date time, data type. I showed you the difference between the NVARCHAR as well as the VARCHAR. We've looked at the int, we've looked at the char, we've looked at the date as well as the date time. And if you still have more questions on this video or the previous video, please leave a comment in the comment section below. If you liked this video, please hit the like button. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell for more videos like this. Thank you guys so much for watching.